Good evening, viewers. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. Our top focus this evening, the state of Uttar Pradesh. Over the course of the last 2 days, if you follow handles by Uttar Pradesh police of various cities, you would have noticed there's a flood of tweets showing pictures of loudspeakers being taken down in front of mosques as well as temples. Now, the police says this is now the order of the Uttar Pradesh government to take down loudspeakers. It's followed the entire Azaan debate. They're doing it in front of temples as well. But the question we raise, and our special investigative team found out, is whether there is science behind removal of these loudspeakers in terms of the decibel levels. If they're crossing it, then remove it. Or is it just ad hoc removing of all loudspeakers? Here's more.
A drive against a long-ignored pollutant. After Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath issued directions on microphones at religious sites, authorities are on the overdrive to take out unauthorized loudspeakers. But physical removal of devices is just one part of enforcing existing rules that cover noise pollution in the state. An India Today investigation found police in various parts of the state aren't yet equipped to target noise that originates from authorized sources but surpasses the prescribed threshold. And if that's not enough, our probe also revealed many aren't even aware that sound can be measured in units called decibels, leave alone the equipment and applications that tackle and track noise pollution. Uttar Pradesh limits noise, daytime decibel threshold, industrial areas 75 dB, commercial areas 65 dB, residential areas 55 dB. Authorities have divided areas into industrial, commercial, residential and silent zones. Each has a set decibel limit for day and night times. Countries battling noise pollution deploy a range of devices to map it and prosecute offenders. The noise radar in Paris identifies loud vehicles. Researchers in Belgium have developed this app to record sound levels and GPS locations. Technology has made it easier to record and report breaches in real time without being tech savvy. But if law enforcement remains untrained and under-equipped, states may end up making peace with noise once again. Mohammad Hizbullah and Nitin Jain for India Today's Special Investigation Team.
Where are the bites? All right, viewers, we're going to dip into and get you all the reactions that our special investigative team found out, of course, of police constables, of SHOs, of inspectors. We're going to just play that out for you in just about a minute. But let's cut across to our panelists in the meantime. I have with me Ashutosh Verma, spokesperson, Samajwadi Party; Anila Singh, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party; Vikram Singh, former DGP UP. I'd like to cut across to former DGP UP, Vikram Singh. Mr. Singh, we're going to play those reactions out because what we have found out, sir, and we're going to just corroborate it with documentary evidence that our special investigative team recorded. The big question is, it's not about whether there's a political debate about it, but the sheer fact, it seems that the Uttar Pradesh police machinery is ill-equipped to actually deal with the fact of recording or mapping noise. They don't know how to do it.
Absolutely right. If I may submit that it is a very elaborate process. Firstly, the rules and the regulations, noise pollution regulation and control rules, and the Act of 2020, as also the acceptable decibel requirements, 55 decibels for the residential area, 65 for the commercial, 75 for the industrial area, as also the silent zones, and not to mention the day and the night, and the Supreme Court guidelines that no public address systems can be used from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. These are the broad guidelines, and I would be very happy if the station house level officers are aware of the legal provisions and also the use of sound level meters and also how to monitor the noise pollution. Agreed, noise pollution is a major health hazard, but to equip and train the regulatory bodies, that is the police force, is an imperative, and I wish that is done first rather than putting the cart before the horse. I would be very happy, yes indeed, rather than use indiscriminate action that can be questioned at a later date, rather than it to be prepared first legally and then equip yourself scientifically also to monitor and then take action. Preeti.
You know, we're going to play those reactions out in just about 2 minutes. I want to bring in Ashutosh Verma, spokesperson Samajwadi Party. Mr. Verma, you know, the fact is, at least one thing, the fact that the UP police is ill-equipped to map noise levels, in terms of most of them we actually spoke to don't even know what decibel levels actually are. Forget about mapping them. But that entire political communal debate on the sidelines, which the Samajwadi Party had propped up, that, you know, these loudspeakers were only being removed from mosques, is untrue, because we saw a lot of temples where these loudspeakers are being removed from as well.
No, Priti, this is technically untrue, and we don't discriminate. We only say that, as the ex-DGP Vikram Singh has said, that it should be not discriminate between the peoples or religions. Presently, I am sitting in front of my India Today, and there is a lot of bands noise coming from my south. So the problem is that neither the UP police have given the decibel level, neither has given any regulation. It's basically a Environment Act under which the Pollution Control Board of India has given the noise level, how much noise level has to be accepted at the public area and the private area. And the 70 to 75 decibel, which is acceptable, nobody has given that criteria, and none of the people from the Uttar Pradesh police has a decibel meter measuring device. So what are they going to do? Are they going to behave similarly between all the mosques and the temples, or they are doing all in bands and using in the marriages, different type of marriages? UP have a lot of marriages in coming months. So what are their clear-cut regulations? So just only politicizing the issue is not a thing Samajwadi Party do. I think
we've
that
seen my colleagues have gone on ground, and there are a lot of temples as well where loudspeakers are being removed from.
I do see. I have also seen most of the videos coming from the social media that lot of loudspeaker has been removed from the temples, and we welcome all these things, because definitely our since I am a doctor, I know that noise pollution is one of the major problems we are facing. Our newborns, the older peoples are having a lot of headaches. They have a blood pressure issues, and WHO has given a very clear-cut guidelines of all these things, how the noise level has to be set. But only to just politicize this issue, not taking a scientific rationale, is something we question about the government, not about the politicizing the issue, what they are doing.
All right, just stay on with me. I'm going to cut across to Anila Singh, but before that, let's listen in to what our special investigative team found out on ground when they went asking the cops responsible for removing these loudspeakers after mapping the noise level with how much decibel it really is on with the device. Did they know anything at all? Listen in.
लेकिन आप ये कैसे सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि इतने डेसिबल में बजेगा?
ये उनको जिन्होंने लगवाया ना, जहाँ से लाउड स्पीकर जो खरीदे हैं, तो उनसे जो पूछ के आएंगे ना कि भाई कितने थे, इसमें क्या थे, जहाँ से खरीदा उन्होंने लाउड स्पीकर, जो खरीदने वाला है वही तो बताएगा। उनको नोटिस दिया ना, नोटिस में उनको दिखा दिया कि इतने डेसिमल, तो उनसे हमने उनसे जहाँ से उन्होंने खरीदा है, जो लाउड स्पीकर खरीदा है, वहाँ उस दुकान पे जाके बताएंगे कि भाई ये ऐसा है, इसमें कितने डेसिमल का है, कितने हैं, वो करके क्लियर करना।
डेसिबल तो आपके पास डेसिबल मीटर है
ना? हमारे पास नहीं होता, वो तो जो लगाने वाला उस पर होगा, हम पे क्यों होगा? हमारा तो काम है पालन कराना।
तो आप लोगों के पास डेसिबल मीटर जो होगा वो है थाने में नहीं है? वो दिखा रहा हूँ।
We're going to play some more reactions as well. They're going to continue to come in. Anila Singh, the onus is now transferred to those who have loudspeakers in front of their mosques or at temples to answer what is the decibel level. Isn't there a lot of ad hocism which is now attached to removal of these loudspeakers from these religious sites?
My Ram to everyone, Preeti. And when we talk about implementation of laws, I think Yogi government is one government which has set examples for many. And if we talk about sound pollution, definitely the actions have started in Uttar Pradesh. And if you talk about decibel meter, yes, many of the authorities, they might not be having decibel meter with them, but at the same time, very soon, all those who are going to get this law implemented equally for all, for everyone, I'll say. We are not going to discriminate on the lines of caste or religion or on other verticals. So I can say one thing: it is not very difficult to decide or to make out that whether the particular loudspeaker is crossing its limit or not. But technically,
Anila
yes,
Singh, that's what I want to ask you.
Technically, allow me.
How does one decipher before you take down a loudspeaker?
Preeti, allow
Yes,
me to complete my statement. But yes, technically, the authority has to show the temple or the mosque or any of the festival organization or anything that yes, they are crossing the limit, then the actions will be taken. But unnecessarily, if we talk about mosque or temple or any other religious place where loudspeakers are being used to do Azaan or to play Bhajans or to play Aarti, that too in a very loud noise, disturbing others, I think that will not be entertained, at least in Uttar Pradesh.
But how do we know? Because, everybody hates noise pollution, but to randomly go and start removing loudspeakers because the police thinks this decibel levels could go high. I'll go back to Mr. Singh on this. What do you make, sir, of all of this? Because the cops that clearly we have spoken to have been very clear that neither do they have a decibel mapping device. They have no clue. They've put the onus on those who run these establishments to figure out what is the decibel level.
It doesn't make sense, Preeti. In the first place, faithful implementation of the rule of law presupposes that you have the wherewithal, the training, the equipment, and the scientific aids to prove that the decibel and the noise pollution is there. And subjective assessment on the basis of, because hearing may be impaired, hearing may be more, hearing may be less, and it varies from person to person. Therefore, the use of sound level meters on a scientific app is an imperative and not an option. Without these, it is going to be subjective, questionable, unscientific, and therefore would not be tenable in the court of law. My advice would be to go in for very simple meters and apps which are scientific. They can be used, very user-friendly, but without that, putting it to subjective use and coming out with something like a conjecture or an assessment is unscientific and not in very good taste.
All right, once again, I'll dip into the other reaction. Now, we've spoken to the SHO, we've spoken to an inspector. Now, let's listen in to a constable.
अच्छा, तो आप लोगों के पास डेसिबल मीटर है थाने में जिसे नापेंगे कि 70 डेसिबल से ज़्यादा या कम है? हाँ?
हवाई मामले हैं तो मुझे सब पता कि वहाँ सुविधा मिल रही है
तो फिर कैसे नापोगे आप लोग?
कैसे नापेंगे वो तो पता नहीं कैसे नापेंगे तो।
All right, what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to club out these 3 reactions for our viewers and play it out. Let's listen in.
लेकिन आप ये कैसे सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि इतने डेसिबल में बजेगा?
ये उनको जिन्होंने लगवाया ना, जहाँ से लाउड स्पीकर जो खरीदे हैं, तो उनसे जो पूछ के आएंगे ना कि भाई कितने थे, इसमें क्या थे, जहाँ से खरीदा उन्होंने लाउड स्पीकर, जो खरीदने वाला है वही तो बताएगा। उनको नोटिस दिया ना, एक नोटिस में उनको दिखा दिया कि इतने डेसिमल, तो हमने उनसे जहाँ से उन्होंने खरीदा है, जो लाउड स्पीकर खरीदा है, वहाँ उस दुकान पे जाके बताएंगे कि भाई ये ऐसा है, इसमें कितने डेसिमल का है, कितने हैं, वो करके क्लियर करना।
डेसिबल तो आपके पास डेसिबल मीटर है
ना? हमारे पास नहीं होता, वो तो जो लगाने वाला उस पर होगा, हम पे क्यों होगा? हमारा तो काम है पालन कराना।
तो आप लोगों के पास वो डेसिबल मीटर जो होगा वो है थाने में या नहीं है? वो दिखा रहा हूँ। अच्छा, तो आप लोगों के पास डेसिबल मीटर है थाने में जिसे नापेंगे कि 70 डेसिबल से ज़्यादा या कम है? हाँ?
हवाई मामले हैं तो मुझे सब पता कि वहाँ सुविधा मिल रही है
तो फिर कैसे नापोगे आप लोग?
कैसे नापेंगे वो तो पता नहीं कैसे नापेंगे तो।
Ashutosh Verma, you wanted to come and go ahead. Yeah, I know you want to come.
The same thing Mr. Vikram Singh has said, I have said previously, that they are going to the war without any weapon. And it's a very, very common thing for the Yogi or government to pass an order and just ask their forces to go in the ground and give them some media clips and say that we are doing something good. But it's not a way. I think it's just the intention is just to politicize this matter. If you want to really help the citizen of this state, please give a clear-cut guidelines. Please give the decibel meter. I beg that most of the policemen who are doing field work, they don't even know what the decibel means. And before this, you are just creating a panic between the society. You are just criminalizing these issues. I think this is no scientific issue. You have to be very clear-cut guidelines, made a decibel meter in hand with your forces, and then definitely we welcome your step that just if you are doing equally in all the societies, we welcome this step. But this is
Anila Singh,
you are doing it
the Samajwadi Party has accused you of, resorting to ad hocism. Your police is not trained. Forget about knowing what decibel levels are, and it's not judgment on them. They're just not trained. Because even the SHO says that where the person has bought the loudspeaker from, he will tell you what the decibel level of the loudspeaker is. He's saying the decibel level is inside the loudspeaker. So clearly your staff isn't trained. This is an attempt by the Bharatiya Janata Party, because there is a massive political communal debate around it, to quickly go and enforce this rule of law, to at least show that the Yogi government comes down with a heavy hand.
Preeti, he is not only talking about ad hocism, he is also talking about politicization about it. He is also talking about communalization about it. This is the same political party, when they were in power, they had taken action against temples where loudspeakers were installed, and they did not do anything about mosques. So here in today's date, if we talk about Yogi government is taking action without any discrimination. So Samajwadi Party is deep into appeasement. Yogi government is not into the appeasement.
I'll come back.
Let me tell you, when we came first, like in 2017, Yogi Adityanath ji, he started anti-Romeo squad, and that time also, too much of criticization was there. Arey bhai behan ko pakad liya, ye kaun sa तरीका होता है, हमारे संविधान ने हमको अधिकार दिया हुआ है, बात नहीं कर सकते. And in today's date we can very well see that you will not find any shahades in front of colleges and schools. Girls can freely and with great liberty they can attend their schools and colleges. In same way, steps have been taken. Decibel meter will be provided to them. Till date, what was happening? This regulation was not being implemented strictly. So if you talk about decibel meter,
but it's being implemented. The question now is, please hear me out, ma'am. The question now is, it wasn't being implemented strictly, but now it is being implemented illegally. Because how do you know what crosses 70 decibels? You don't know. You are saying nikal do, isi mein hoga decibel level.
That any sort of atrocities are being done on them, whether we talk about temples or whether we talk about gurdwaras, whether we talk about church or whether we talk about mosque. So if they think that atrocities are being done by the Yogi government on them by getting loudspeakers, unauthorized loudspeakers removed from their buildings, then they can go ahead, they can go in the court and they can take action whatever they want to do.
But I think Verma, the point is, okay, you want to sensitize the police, you want to train them, you want to give them decibel meters, but the fact is most of these installations in terms of loudspeakers are illegal in any case.
So, Preeti, what BJP spokesperson saying, I am saying repeatedly that she mentioned about the anti-Romeo squad. What happened to them? After starting this anti-Romeo squad, the NCRB latest data has given that UP is suffering one rape case every 16 seconds. What is the status of Uttar Pradesh?
And you are saying one rape case in every 15 seconds. It is not. Come on. Go and check your data.
Then in the last regime, Yogi government asked her ministers to please reveal their asset about their wealth and all the. But they have not given any record. And similarly, now they are just politicizing because across the country there's a lot of debate between the Azaan and how the temples are going. So just show how the solidarity the Bharatiya Janata Party is doing all these things.
Correct your facts first of all. Before quoting them, you should correct your facts.
Let me complete. Before giving any weapon to their police,
Sir, you
are not giving the data from last 2018.
You are a good spokesperson. You should not lie on national channel like this that NCRB says One rape in every 15 seconds in Uttar
I beg a
Pradesh.
pardon.
What you're talking
I beg a pardon.
about,
I beg a pardon. It's
What
one
you're
rape in
talking
every
about?
16 minutes. Sorry, every
According to
16 minutes.
NCRB, according to
Okay,
Okay,
let me
okay,
clear,
he's
let me
corrected
clear.
himself.
Rapes
Anila
are
saying he's
reduced,
corrected himself.
It has
UP has
given
humongous
one rape in
population.
every
Anila
16
saying he's
minutes.
correct. You know, all I'm going to do is,
One
I'm going to
rape
quickly
is-
go
that
to,
is
I am going to quickly go to Mr.
one rape
Vikram
in
Singh, get in a
every
last
16 minutes,
word,
which has been
and
given
then I'll
by the
move on.
NCRB data.
Mr. Vikram Singh, ultimately, will this also now become a tool of harassment? Because there is no way to gauge decibel levels. You know, what are the cops actually going to do? Because they're going to go there and they'll unilaterally take a call if something has to be removed or not. We don't know whether it's breaching the law.
Preeti ji, there's always a best way of doing everything, especially when it comes to enforcement of the rule of law. It has to be within the ambit and parameters of law and not whimsical or knee-jerk. In this case, I'm sorry, but there is no scientific aids to what I am doing, because I myself am not very sure. I believe in presumption. I believe in subjective assessment, which is just most unscientific. Therefore, to stand the scrutiny of law, we have to have the sound level meters handy, something that comes very cheap and then given to all police stations, and then enforce the rule of law. Train, equip, and then enforce.
All right. I appreciate all three of you for joining us. Thank you. There, we're going to leave it for our viewers to decide. For many who live in Uttar Pradesh, and that's a fact of life, you know, they're actually heaving a sigh of relief, because be it a Jagran from a temple or the Azaan from the mosque, they don't want to be subjected to the noise pollution. So even though it's not being mapped in terms of the decibel levels, they're very happy that these loudspeakers are going. But then there is this entire legal debate. Under that purview, could this just lead to more harassment? And on the other hand, is this also a political tool where the Bharatiya Janata Party government in UP is concerned? You know, they've to show that they come down with a very heavy hand once they say something. Yogi's land. We're going to leave it for our viewers to decide.